Senator Rubio.
Thank you, Ambassador and General, for being here with us today and for your service. I just wanted to briefly examine the detainee issues. I know that we've turned over several facilities to the Iraqis. What's the status of, and I don't know who the appropriate person to answer that, may be both, but what's the status of those facilities that have been turned over to Iraqi administration in terms of recidivism rates and things of that nature?
As you mentioned, we have turned over all of the detainee facilities, and with the exception of one, we continue to hold a number of detainees, about a little over 200 at Camp Cropper, which is, we plan to transition those detainees in the summer, and we're on track to transition them. So I don't think there will be any issues there. But in terms of recidivism, we continue to see some recidivism. That's to be expected. But by and large, I think we've been very effective in the way that we transferred the detainees over to the Iraqis, and we didn't have any major issues as a result of that.
General, do you know or have any indication of how many foreign fighters have been released by the Iraqis, and have we re-engaged with them at any point and so forth?
I don't have at my fingertips numbers of foreign fighters or former foreign fighters that were detained and released by the Iraqis, but there no question have been some, and of course we detain them, and based upon the evidence that's available, the Iraqis will determine whether or not they continue to detain them. So there will no doubt be instances where people have gone through the due legal processes, and as a result of evidence or lack thereof, may have been released back to the population at large.
And I guess my last question on the detainee issue is, I know we had some level of success, I think, at dealing with some of the less radicalized prisoners that had come. There's some programs set up to kind of pull them away from that sort of stuff. Have the Iraqis continued that, and if so, with what level of success? I mean, are they doing that as well?
The Iraqis are doing some things, but certainly not to the degree that that we were doing down in Buka and some other places there. And I think as their system develops, they'll learn from what we did. They'll also learn from what the Saudis have done, and implement more and more of those processes.
And Ambassador, this question is probably for you. It's a little broader, but I do think it ties into kind of what the testimony was about today. I think we're all watching the events in Egypt, and before that in Tunisia, Yemen. What is your sense of how that's going to be perceived by the people in Iraq, and more importantly, how that could kind of manifest itself over the next few months and years in terms of this government's ability to sustain itself? And I'm also curious, if I know it's kind of outside the focus today, but I think clearly aligned, is any thoughts you may have as to how this could be perceived in Iran by people there?
In terms of Iraq, I've been out of the country for a week, and so I haven't been following it as closely as we normally do. But I think that from what I've seen and from talking with Iraqis, they believe in the democratic system. You remember the Purple Finger elections of January 2005. This has become part of the ethos of that country, a democratic political system. And frankly, they think that they're a little ahead of most of the rest of the Middle East, and they're proud of their constitution. They're proud of their elections, and I think that we'll see to some degree what's happening if it turns in a good direction towards more true democracy as a confirmation of the path they have taken, a path that has been, of course, challenged violently. How it all plays out, of course, and that's the question that we're still working our way through, is not certain, but we hope for a good solution in Egypt and elsewhere in the Middle East. We support democratic reform throughout the region. The lesson I take from that, and of some relevance here today, is that we do need to be, first of all, out all around the country. You can't follow what's going on in Egypt or Iraq from Cairo or Baghdad any more than you can try to figure out what's going on in the United States from Washington. And you need to be out. We closed our consulate in Alexandria in 1993 as a budget-saving move, and it turned out probably to be a mistake. I've served in 2 consulates as a political officer. I know what it's like to be out there in the countryside. I think that that is very, very important. It's an early warning system. It's one reason why we're asking for the funds and taking the risks we are to keep our people out in Iraq, to basically keep our finger on what's going on and try to help our friends, and particularly to help the democratic transformation, to provide a platform for the UN, which is also out there, and other members of the international community. In terms of Iran, it's an excellent question, sir. I really can't say how they're reacting, probably with nervousness. As you know, they had their own street demonstrations a year and a half ago. They were put down with merciless violence, and I think that this is not a good development from their standpoint. They may try to exploit it in one or another way by seeing this as an opening for extremist groups, but my sense is that that will be fairly hard for them to do.
So just as a follow, I don't mean to put words in your mouth or to exaggerate the point, but your sense is that people in Iraq look at what's happening in Egypt and other places and feel like they're ahead of the curve, that in essence those countries are coming their way in terms of the creation of these democratic institutions. They take pride in the idea that they've begun to build for themselves the society, and in fact these other countries are now coming in that direction to one extent or another.
Yeah. As I said, I've been a little bit removed from the past week, but I think you're on target, Senator.